Well, that certainly is not the kind or the way that we will want the elections to go, exhibiting such violence. Well, Professor Paul Omaji joins us now. He's a former Vice Chancellor of Salem University in Kogi State. He's a leadership consultant, also a criminologist. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Well, first and foremost, looking through the weekend and going through the papers, thank you, you will see concerning stories that many wonder, why all this? Should elections be worth people's blood? What do we do to begin to get this right, at least? Can you hear me, Prof?
Well, look, there's a break in communication, but I just picked up a few words from your question, and my understanding is you're asking what can be done to ensure that violence like this does not continue with our elections.
Yes.
If that is correct, let me just make these few comments quickly. Number one, election by its nature is adversarial. And it's adversarial because it's a contest for power. Now, what makes election produce violence is actually what that power is to be used for. And where the power is directed at selfish interests, where the power is directed as personal aggrandizement, where the power is directed at sustaining or protecting some vested interests, violence is inevitable.
Well, Prof, there's one aspect as well. I mean, lots of people are beginning to draw some analogy and comparison. They say, look, can they tell us which election has this INEC conducted that has not been inconclusive? And so if many of them are of the opinion that they are fast losing faith in a body that is supposed to be independent and by extension de-escalate the tension, isn't that also one factor that should be considered?
Yeah, of course. The role of the electoral empire is very critical. Where there is any impression whatsoever, rightly or wrongly, that the electoral empire is not independent to start with, or is not objective, or is seen to indeed be carrying out a particular agenda, such impressions can also contribute to the violence generating processes of an election.
So what would
Having said that, it's also important to note that interested parties can actually project onto INEC their own biases and use that to carry out whatever intentions they have. So either way, you need to look at all the various participants or the players before you can understand and appreciate the violence that comes from elections like these.
So what would you have said we should do differently with the elections in Rivers State?
Okay, look, it is important for everyone to understand that these elections provide an opportunity for a major contest over high stakes. Some people argue, well, I mean, there was no gubernatorial election involved, but the other elections that have actually been conducted have the potential to carry significant repercussions for the gubernatorial arrangement in the state. For example, it's been rumored that if the composition of the State House of Assembly changes, that the present governor, might be impeached. remember also that whatever is happening at the National Assembly has some, repercussions for what is happening also in River State that we're witnessing now. Because if there is any change in the number of representatives or the senators from different parties, all these things will affect the balance of power even in the National Assembly. And that has ramifications for the national governance.
I like to look at it from a leadership perspective, which is also your area of forte. If you look at comments and actions from leaders, political leaders, even you've seen what is happening in the United States on the Republican side, how well can the leaders be, tone down what they say and their moves, which is termed as action, so that the polity can't be what we've seen in River State?
Look, you're very right there. I have come to believe very strongly that everything rises, stands, and falls on leadership. And unfortunately for Nigeria and also a number of African countries, leadership has not served us well. What is critical to note here is this. There is what I call vicious leadership. This is where people in positions of power actually use the power to satisfy selfish interests as opposed to selfless interests. And I am of the view that some of the things that need to come into being so that we can minimize the kind of tensions that were created by the comments of leaders are as follows. Number one, look, let me just link it to what I heard Minister Amechi said on one of your programs when he was asked, why don't you invite or sit down with Governor Wike so that you can tone down the temperature? And his response was very interesting. He said, well, I'm available. Where is he or how do we get him? In some countries, they have set up what we call electoral conflict management panels. These are panels that constitute mediators that have been selected, approved, and indeed vetted by various stakeholders. And when there are tensions like this, the mediators kick in. Because the two political gladiators, as we refer to them now, may not be able to build bridges to come together. But the mediators should be able to play such roles. Remember when we were having the national election last year, we had a peace committee that was set up that was led by the former head of state, Absalam. And of course, they played a significant role in bringing the two contestants together and brokering some levels of understanding and some civility in the way that the elections were conducted. In this particular instance, the question I was asking myself was, where are mediators? Where are electoral conflict management people that can build bridges and bring these two people together to sit down and talk? That these elections are not about them.